Welcome back to our viewers at CEO.CA. My name is Amrit Gill, and we are at PDAC in Toronto, the world's premier mineral exploration and mining convention. And joining me on stage is Francis MacDonald, CEO and Director of Lift Power, Steve Hanson, Director, President, and CEO of ACME Lithium, and Deepak Varshney, CEO and Director of Usha Resources. Welcome.
Thanks for
Happy to be here today.
We're at day 2 at PDAC. How's it been for you so far?
Busy. It's been good.
Yeah.
Productive. It's good to see everybody buzzing around.
Yeah. So can I get you guys to tell our audience a little bit about your respective companies and the vision behind them?
Sure, I'll go first. So my name's Deepak Varshney, CEO of Usha Resources. We have a lithium brine project in Nevada. That's our focus. And we're on the path to, I think, it's going to be the next discovery.
Great. My name is Steve Hanson. I'm President and CEO of ACME Lithium. I'm also the founder of the company. We are focused on domestic supply of lithium in North America, and we have a group of projects in Manitoba, as well as we're the largest landholder in northern Saskatchewan. And then we have 2 projects in Nevada, so we're actively exploring. We're drilling right now on 2 of them and excited for some key catalysts upcoming here in 2023.
I am Francis MacDonald, CEO of Lift, and Lift is a lithium exploration company. We're focused on exploration and development of hard rock lithium deposits in Canada. The Yellowknife project is the flagship project, and this is a portfolio of 13 spodumene pegmatites that have been known about since the 1940s. No one's ever really drilled them off, and that's kind of our plan, is just to go up and drill underneath these exposed lithium pegmatites and come out with an inferred mineral resource sometime next year.
So what does the exploration process for lithium look like?
I'll start there. Just in terms of, I think, starting out with, if you're looking for brines or hard rock lithium, completely different settings. So that's the first thing. Lift is looking for hard rock lithium deposits. So if you have something sticking out of the ground, that's great. The Wabuchi deposit was found by just drilling underneath a showing. Same with Corvette, which is Patriot Battery Metals, which has obviously been the star in the space. But then, in Canada, we have a lot of glacial sediments that cover everything, lakes, bogs. And so there's a lot of pegmatites that will be discovered that are just not outcropping. So Canada's an exciting place to be right now for hard rock lithium exploration.
Yeah, and then brine is very different because we're essentially drilling water wells. So we are going, it's very different from looking for spodumene because we're going to be drilling 2 to 4 holes to really test out the water. We're looking at lithium salts at the bottom of the basin. And so, one advantage is it's quicker, but with less exploration, but higher upfront costs. So it's a little different.
Yeah, interesting comments you guys have made. We have both. We have a brine project in Nevada next to the actually only lithium production currently in the United States. What's really interesting is that there's only one place that currently produces lithium in the US, and it's in Clayton Valley, Nevada, and it's brine, and we are their neighbor to the northwest and made a brine discovery there. We're in the midst of a multi-well program, and we're actively exploring there. So it's more akin to oil and gas, or as Deepak mentioned, drilling water wells. You're looking for multiple intervals that can be productive. For brine, you don't have to drill like a pincushion. You're drilling a handful of holes that you can get to ultimately an inferred resource. And through this winter program, we hope to do that sometime this year in 2023. And then we have a group of hard rock projects in southeastern Manitoba, in and around the only production currently in Canada. So there's only one place that currently produces lithium in Canada, and it's at the Tanko mine in southeastern Manitoba. And we're exploring pegmatites, looking for lithium just south of that mine in southeastern Manitoba. So again, a really interesting time to be in lithium, and it's a really interesting commodity in that it can be found in brine, in clay, and in hard rock.
What are some of the other key regions when it comes to lithium, and what are the opportunities of finding the next big lithium deposit?
So, I think that Nevada is a good place to start, right? As Steve said, it's the only operating mine in North America. That's one reason why we're there as well. We're looking for brine. It's a great jurisdiction. They just started construction up at Thacker Pass, so the second mine will also be in Nevada. But I think in North America overall, there's a real hunt for domestic lithium. I think here in North America, over the next 10, 20 years, it's a good spot to be.
I think so. For spodumene pegmatites, Australia has really been the place to go to in the last cycle. So there's a lot of big projects that started getting built out. But Canada has very similar geology to Australia, and it's got a lot more of the same geology than Australia. So there should be just as much lithium or more just based on the geological setting. And I think Canada is a great place to be, also the US as well, but North America specifically is, I think, leading the charge in this lithium cycle for lithium exploration.
Well, I think North America, is very active these days, but there's good reason for that. And part of the problem is that 97% of the world's lithium comes from only 4 countries, and that's Chile, Argentina, Australia, and China. And really the US and Canada are far behind when it comes to lithium. I mentioned that there's only 2 places that currently produce lithium, one in the US and one in Canada. And to meet, obviously, this insatiable demand for lithium, it runs our daily lives and our cell phones, our laptops, our hybrid cars, EV cars, grid storage. We need to have a domestic supply of lithium. We can't rely on foreign jurisdictions. And so companies like all ours are obviously actively exploring and hoping to provide a domestic supply to some of these battery factories that are being built now in Canada and the US.
As companies operating in this space, could you share your perspective on the recent bull run and what you believe some of the drivers are?
Well, what you just said, there's just not enough supply. As we electrify the economy worldwide, you can see that there's just simple supply demand problem, and everyone's out right now trying to meet that supply side of things, right? I don't think we all see each other as competition. I think we're all going to be part of the solution. There is more than enough demand right now. We're all working to fill it.
Yeah, and then the geopolitical aspect too, I think, is important, which we've touched on, but that is an important narrative right now of securing domestic supply.
Well, I want to touch on that geopolitical aspect. What do you consider, geopolitical risks and how they shape the future of lithium supply chains?
Well, historically, extraction of minerals has been a challenge in the US and Canada, although we are leaders for exploration globally around the world. I mean, here we are in Toronto at PDAC, the world's largest exploration and mining conference in the world. 50, 60,000 people descend on here, certainly post-COVID. Yet we don't have a lot of mines that have been actually put into production in North America. But I think that's changing. The good news is through Canada's critical mineral strategy, which was announced in early December by the Minister of Resources, through President Biden's Defense Production Act, Inflation Reduction Act, and their white paper on lithium from the Energy Department. I think there's a movement, not just investment, but politically getting behind the industry at the federal, the state, the provincial level. So, the good news is that our stakeholders in a variety of areas are recognizing this insatiable need for lithium, and the fact that we have deposits here in North America, and that there will be new discoveries made that hopefully we can help with supply down the road.
And
No, I was going to say, for sure. I mean, that's, you see the geopolitics in China, right? It's important that we have our own supply, right? Right now, we just simply, we see with the Russian war going on, what do you do when you don't have something, right? That's when we saw the spikes in nickel pricing, aluminum pricing, and so, it's really important that we do take these projects into production and meet that cycle.
Well, the old adage in the commodities is the cure for high prices is high prices. And with the mining often following a super cycle, do you think that we're seeing that in the lithium sector now?
I think, higher prices, it depends on the market. The supply-demand dynamics are such that the supply is not keeping up with the demand, and the demand just keeps growing every year. And, we all see it. Like, I see more Teslas everywhere, more charging stations, and it's really visible to everybody. So that's driving these higher prices. And is this the new normal? Maybe. Is there going to be some breathing in the market? Probably. There will be some up and down, but are we going to go back to prices that we saw in the 2010s? No, I don't think so. So it's supply demand dynamic, I think, is really just driving prices.
We've seen a record price hit here recently in the last few weeks, and then now a pullback. And the price of lithium as a commodity has been up close to 20 times in the last 2.5 years, which is really quite amazing. But as Prentice mentioned, it's really been driven by this insatiable demand for lithium in driving our lives. Most of the majors that are in production right now are using a much lower commodity price for their NPVs and IRRs and their forecasts. So, even if we were to see lithium pull back by 20-30%, the economics are still very, very good for the future for lithium. So even though we've seen this spike in skyrocketing prices, any kind of pullback still should bode well. We need more of it over time. I think we're going to see continued strength in the price and hopefully hit new highs down the road.
I'll just say one more thing about this. I'm coming from a gold background, and so I always have to convert things to gold equivalent. So if you use a $5,000 spodumene price per ton, that's basically like 15 gram per ton gold equivalent. And this is like an open pit that's mining 15 gram rock. Like, okay, cut the price in half. It's still going to be economic. So the prices right now are crazy. They're completely detached from the cost curve. And I think it's going to be, anyone that has lithium deposits and resources is going to be successful if they can get them up in production.
Well, when it comes to exploration and extraction, there are varying degrees of environmental protections being taken place by lithium companies globally. Does this create an unequal playing field?
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, if you're exploring in Africa or South America, the cost can be lower. But I don't think that's a bad thing. We want to pay fair wages and we want to be producing domestically. And, there's going to be a higher cost to support that. But the prices are going to be there, right? I mean, if you want to secure your own domestic supply, you got to be willing to pay the price.
Yeah, I mean, ESG issues are important to us corporately. I've worked on all 4 continents around the world on different projects, and you face different hurdles at a community level and an environmental level. And so you have to get on even as a junior, you have to get an explorer and developer, you have to get on the front end of it. We work very closely with First Nations on our projects in Canada. We've signed an exploration agreement with Saugeen First Nation in southeastern Manitoba. We have quite a number of Saugeen as part of our crew. We've done archaeological studies, base level environmental studies. We need to use best practices in everything we do. So, it's important that we are good stewards. We are, in areas that are can be sensitive. But the good news about the jurisdictions that we're all in is there's a long history of resource development, over 100 years in Nevada, in the territories, in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And so we're not going places where there isn't activity. And so, I think there's positive momentum by all stakeholders behind it from an environmental standpoint. But we've got to continue to use best practices and address those issues as they come and hopefully get ahead of the game.
Well, how can companies who do the ethical and right thing continue to win despite the uneven playing fields?
Government support's a big part of it. With the Inflation Reduction Act, with the Canadian Growth Strategy, it helps, right? It's a big driver, I think. It will be a big driver to move projects forward, right? Government support's important. That's why we're in Nevada partially, right? That's why we're in Manitoba. That's why we're in life. We're going to work well with every stakeholder. That's do our best. Part of that is making sure we're in place for the government to help move these projects forward.
Well, we're seeing a large amount of money come in from the automaker sector as well. What are your thoughts on whether these large direct investments into lithium properties will continue?
I think it'll keep coming because everyone is out there people don't know where the lithium is going to come from. And you're seeing the OEMs go further up the chain to, looking at early stage projects to try and secure supply. So it's a trend, I think, and I think it'll keep going.
Yeah, never in my 30-year career have I seen technology companies, auto manufacturers step down to earlier stage companies, whether they invest or whether they actually are doing due diligence. I mean, I've never seen it in my career, and really, if you think about General Motors or Ford or some of the North American companies, Tesla, that are active, they know where they're going to get supply for the next 2 to 5 years. They're concerned about where we're going to get supply 6, 7, 8 years from now if we can't get supply from foreign jurisdictions. And so, you look at the numbers, there's 3 million people on waiting lists right now for hybrid and electric vehicles. There's government legislation being put in California and in Canada and other states where gasoline cars will no longer be sold. I mean, the train's left the station. We're going to have insatiable demand for battery metals, in particular lithium. And fortunately, now governments are getting behind it. But I've been contacted by auto manufacturers, technology companies, commodity traders, and never in my career have I seen this happen in any commodity cycle in my 30 years.
For sure. I mean, we're by far the smallest market cap, the panel here at 15 million, and we're having the same conversations. And it's a little surprising, but again, it just speaks to the fact that they need to start reaching earlier and earlier to help secure supply. And so when they see projects that don't look viable, they like the projects, then they want to get in front, be first in line, so that when the time comes, you go from 15 to 150 or whatever, they're first in line being talked to.
Well, I've heard this word a couple of times now, government. How are government policies incentivizing critical minerals that impact your operations specifically? And do you think that governments are offering enough support to ensure that supply?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially in the U.S., you see there have been significant investments over the last year into helping juniors move projects forward. It's clear that President Biden sees this as a need, and I think he's doing his part. I think they're going to keep going stronger. Right? It's not different in Ontario when they set that NJET program. They increased the funding for that, and I think they're going to keep providing support moving the next decade, 2 decades, what have you, because they see the need.
I think the critical minerals tax flow credit that the Canadian government recently issued is very helpful because you can raise capital at much lower dilution to the company, which means you can put more money in the ground. So yes, it's been helpful so far, and it will continue to be helpful. But I think one of the biggest things that governments can do is help out on the permitting side of things, because that's really the critical path in a lot of these projects, is the time that you go from discovery up to production. And it's really controlled by permitting a lot of the time. So simplifying those processes, revamping the whole permitting process, I think, is an important thing that should be looked at.
I think to add to that comment, I was going to mention permitting as well. I think that's the biggest bottleneck in our industry. I think we're going to continue to see capital flow into the industry. I think we're going to continue to see discoveries made and world-class resources developed. The good news is I do see at all levels, federal, state, provincial, and even at the municipal level, governments saying the right things and starting to do the right things. They're putting money in. There's tens of billions of dollars from government that are flowing into the industry. And at the permitting level, I mean, take Manitoba, for example. The resource minister of Manitoba announced in November that they were going to allocate more money to permitting. Very, very important for companies like ours to move forward. So in their permitting office, they're hiring 19 new people to help juniors, intermediates, and larger companies advance their projects at various levels. So human capital is really important. It's not that we change the checklists of things that need to be ticked off from a permitting standpoint. We need to make sure that all those practices are taken care of. We don't want to shortchange the permitting process, but we want to make sure that human capital is invested in to fast track it so that we're not stuck in red tape and it takes years to get these things given the green light.
Can each of you share your outlook for the next 5 years?
5 years, so I expect that lithium prices will stay strong and high, just because a lot of the projects that have been slated for production have had delays, and I think this idea that there's going to be a glut of lithium is probably overblown based on the history of bringing these projects to market. So it's going to be an exciting 5 years, I would say. for people that own lithium resources and are developing those towards production.
Yeah, I think there's going to be, in North America in particular, I think there's going to be multiple new discoveries made. I think we're going to see a number of projects go into production as well to supply the domestic supply chain. And I think for all investors, they should be exposed to some lithium in their portfolio. Hopefully one of our companies, but if not, they should be exposed to it in some form. I think it's a massive megatrend we're going to see over the next decade, and I think North America is going to be a big part of it in meeting global supply. I think the other area we don't talk about is the possibility that mines going into production in Canada could not just supply domestically, but we could be an exporter as well. And that's part of the federal government's mandate of Canada, and why they created their critical mineral strategy is they want to be an exporter of commodities too. So it's very important down the road. I can see that happening.
I mean, I think they both said it really well. The only thing I'll add is that you're going to see new hubs go up, right? Because there's going to be so much exploration, so many discoveries being made. You'll see these projects, these mines develop wherever we can, and you see infrastructure follow. And it'll also, as an impact and a corollary, help other exploration sectors as well, right? Because once the infrastructure is in place for lithium, a lot of other commodities will be, there's a lot of projects in Canada that will be accessible to drive growth there as well. So it's going to be a good 5 years.
Yeah. Any final message that you guys have for the investor community?
I think we're here. Lithium's gonna be here for a while. Usha's trying to find the next discovery in Nevada, and I think with the drilling going on right now, we've got our maiden program. We hope that we'll be able to deliver a resource coming up this year, and hopefully join a group in the U.S. that is showing to be very successful.
Yeah, thanks for putting this on today. Again, ACME Lithium, I believe we've got one of the best portfolios of lithium projects in North America. We're drilling right now next to the only production in the US, and we're drilling right now in Canada next to the only production in Canada. So rocks do stop and start, but we're really hopeful and encouraged that we will have success here through this winter. So some key catalysts upcoming, and again, we're hoping to get to a resource calculation as well. Looking forward to some of these milestones to take place.
And so Lift Power, like I was saying in the beginning, we have a portfolio of spodumene pegmatites that are sticking out of the ground. We're just going to drill underneath them. And if everything's continuous to about 300 meters depth, we believe this could be one of the top 10 hard rock lithium resources in the world eventually. We have to go out and drill it off. But it's going to be an exciting year once we start drilling.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the convention.
Thank you.
It's great. Thank you.